You see this hunk of iron right here, Alex? Most folks would look at this and see a boat anchor. It's got enough rust on it to give a tetanus shot to anyone in a 3-mile radius.
It looks like it was rescued from the bottom of the Atlantic, Tiger. Is there even a tool left under all that orange crust?
Oh, she's in there, just sleeping. That's the thing about old steel. It's patient. This was someone's livelihood 80 years ago. They probably used it to fit doors in a house that's still standing. There's a ghost of a craftsman in that handle, and it feels like a crying shame to let it just crumble into dust in a damp garage.
I love the sentiment, truly, but I've seen you spend 4 hours scrubbing a single bolt with a toothbrush. Is the spiritual connection worth the elbow grease when you can just click buy now on a shiny new precision plane?
Well, sure, you can buy new, but the soul is missing. And honestly, some of this old cast iron is more stable than the stuff coming off the assembly lines today. It's had a century to settle. It's not going to warp on you now. Plus, there's a specific kind of satisfaction in taking something dead and making it sing again. It's like being a doctor, but for inanimate objects that don't complain during surgery.
Okay, I'm sold on the old world charm. But for the rest of us who don't want to spend our retirement cleaning one chisel, where do we start? If I find a box of mystery metal at a flea market, what's the first move?
Assessment is everything. You've got to be a bit of a detective. First thing I do is look for cracks in the main casting, especially on planes. If the mouth of the plane is cracked, it's a paperweight, you can't heal a broken heart, and you can't easily weld cast iron without it looking like a Frankenstein project.
So check for structural integrity first. No cracks, no deal breakers. What about the rust? How do you know when it's good rust versus this is now a sponge?
Pitting is the enemy. Deep, crater-like pits on the flat side of a blade, the back, are a nightmare because you can't get a clean edge. If it looks like the surface of the moon, leave it for the collectors who just want to hang it on a wall. We're looking for user grade, a little surface bloom. That's just a Tuesday afternoon project.
You're taking it apart faster than a kid with a Lego set. Is keeping track of the bits as hard as it looks?
Here's a little trick for the disorganized soul. I keep an old muffin tin on the bench. Every screw, every brass nut goes in its own little hole. Total disassembly is the only way to do it right. You can't just dunk the whole thing in a bucket and hope for the best. The wood handles, the tote, and the knob, they need to be separated from the metal immediately. Water and old rosewood are not friends.
Right, because the next step is the bath, isn't it? I've heard people talk about using everything from high-end chemicals to, molasses?
People get really tribal about their liquids. I've tried electrolysis, where you hook up a car battery charger and bubble the rust off. But honestly, it's a bit of a mad scientist setup. If the cat walks in and dips a paw in that electrified soup, you've got a real problem on your hands.
Well, we're definitely trying to avoid Crispy Kitty. So what's the sensible human method?
Citric acid, it's cheap, it's basically lemonade powder on steroids, and it's effective. I mix it with warm water in a plastic bin, you drop the metal parts in, and you just wait. It's the one time in the shop where laziness is actually a virtue.
How long are we talking? Do I leave it in until the rust is gone, or is there a point of no return where the metal starts disappearing too?
You've got to keep an eye on it. Usually a few hours, maybe overnight if it's really stubborn. But here's where I see people mess up. They pull the tool out and it looks gray and dull, and they think they're done. No. The second that metal hits the air, it wants to flash rust. It'll turn orange again before you can finish your coffee. You have to neutralize it, scrub it with a bit of dish soap and water, dry it like your life depends on it. I use a hairdryer sometimes, and then get some oil on it immediately.
I noticed you grabbed a nylon pad, not a wire brush on a bench grinder. Are we being gentle today?
I've seen too many beautiful old tools ruined by someone getting overexcited with a high-speed wire wheel. It leaves these swirl marks that look like a teenager tried to improve an antique. Use a brass brush or a nylon pad. You want to preserve the patina, that dark, seasoned look of the non-working surfaces. We want it to look used and loved, not like it just rolled off a chrome plating line in 1950.
That makes sense. It's like a vintage leather jacket. You want it clean, but you don't want it to look like plastic. But what about the parts that actually do the work? The bottom of the plane, the edge of the blade. Those have to be perfect, right?
That's the tuning phase. This is where you find out if you're a craftsman or just a guy with a hobby. To get the soul of a plane flat, I use a piece of plate glass or a granite scrap with sandpaper glued to it. You rub that heavy iron back and forth until the bottom is as flat as a frozen lake. It's boring, it's repetitive, and your shoulders will hate you. But it's the difference between a tool that tears wood and one that takes shavings thin enough to read a newspaper through.
You're doing that freehand. No jigs, no guiding wheels. Is that just you showing off, or is there a reason?
A bit of both? No, honestly, I once bought a huge lot of eBay tools, about 150 blades in one go. If I had set up a jig for every single one of those, I'd still be in the shop with a gray beard down to my knees. Learning to feel the bevel against the stone with your own fingers, it's like learning to ride a bike. Once your brain clicks onto the angle, you can sharpen a tool in 2 minutes and get back to work. It's about muscle memory, not gadgets.
I've seen people spend $500 on sharpening systems. You're saying I just need some stones and some patience?
And a flat surface. Don't get me wrong, those jigs are great for learning. But don't let the lack of a fancy setup stop you from bringing a tool back to life. Now look at this wood. This is Brazilian rosewood. You can't even buy this stuff anymore. It's protected. If you sand this off and spray it with cheap hardware store lacquer, you're committing a crime against history.
So what's the restoration-friendly way to handle the handles?
Clean them with a little Murphy's oil soap or a dedicated citrus cleaner. If the finish is really shot, I'll use a light touch with some 0,000 steel wool and then a coat of paste wax. You want to feel the wood, not a layer of plastic. If the handle is cracked, which they usually are, I use a bit of high-quality wood glue and a surgical tubing wrap to clamp it. The repair becomes part of the tool's story.
I like that. Part of the story. It feels like you're becoming the next chapter in this tool's life.
Exactly, there's a weight to it. When I'm holding a chisel that survived the Great Depression and 2 world wars, and it's still sharp enough to shave with, it puts your own problems in perspective. Your project might be frustrating today, but this tool has seen worse, and it's still ready to work.
Okay, but let's talk about the disaster potential. What's the biggest oops you've had while trying to be a tool savior?
Oh, early on, I tried the vinegar soak. Vinegar's an acid, right? Well, I put a very delicate, small block plane in a jar of white vinegar and then got a phone call from an old friend. 3 days later, I remembered the jar. The vinegar had eaten so much of the metal that the adjustment threads were basically gone. It looked like a piece of Swiss cheese. I'd effectively restored it right into the trash can.
So the lesson is, don't get distracted by long-lost friends while there's acid in the shop.
The lesson is that more time isn't always better. Restoration is a conversation with the material. You have to keep checking in. How you doing, Mr. Plane? You feeling clean yet?
You're officially the tool whisperer. It actually looks beautiful. It's not new, but it looks right.
That's the goal. We're not trying to fake a factory finish. We're trying to restore function while honoring the age.
So, for the listeners out there staring at a rusty pile of maybe tools this weekend, what's the one thing they should keep in mind before they start scrubbing?
Don't rush the disassembly. Take pictures of how it came apart. There's nothing more heartbreaking than having a clean, sharp tool and 3 mystery washers left over on the bench. And honestly, start cheap. Find a $5 rusty wrench or a beat-up chisel. Build your confidence on the stuff that doesn't matter, so when you finally find that holy grail heirloom plane, your hands already know what to do.
Start small, stay patient, and keep your cats away from the chemicals.
Precisely. And remember, you aren't just cleaning metal. You're making sure that decades from now, someone else can find this tool and wonder about the person who cared enough to keep it sharp.
That's remarkably thin. It's like ribbon.
That's the sound of a tool being happy to be back at work. You can't buy that sound. You have to earn it. Thanks for hanging out with us in the shop today. Now go find something rusty and make it useful again.
And maybe send us a picture before you dissolve it in vinegar.
Please do. See you next time.